Assalamu alaikum and welcome to day 16 of our How to Read Quran series, a program on the Quranology Institute's YouTube channel. Today I will be speaking to you about navigating big chapters of Quran. And for those of you who are familiar with the layout of Quran, you will know that it has some tremendously big chapters, especially in the beginning of the text. We have Al-Baqarah, 286 verses, Ali Imran, 200 verses, An-Nisa, 176 verses, and on and on. And sometimes when you read these chapters, and as you go along, you will find that you have forgotten what it is you read before, and you are unable to make the connection with your current place in the chapter. I mean, for example, by the time you read the story of David and Goliath in chapter 2, you may have forgotten already what was previously mentioned about Bani Israel and the believers, etc., in the very same chapter. So what should you do about it? Now, I would encourage you to think of this as climbing a mountain. Now, if you climb a mountain and you want to get to the peak, and we consider getting to the peak would be grasping the entire chapter. So what you should do is, you should plant pegs as you climb up, so that these pegs become a kind of a reminder of where you are. So as you read, let's say for example you are reading Al-Baqarah. Al-Baqarah has, by my calculation, 18 different sections. And it's very easy to demarcate these sections because they are all segmented by the calls. For example, in verse 21, Al-Baqarah has the call to mankind, Ya Ayyuhan Nas. And it has another, the very same call in verse 168. Now, why are those calls there? Because it divides the chapter into two different sections. And if you analyze the theme of those sections, you will see what the differences are. I'm not going to get into it today. And after the call to mankind, there's the call to Bani Israel, then there's the call to those who believe, etc., etc. So, first thing you should do is to segment the chapter as much as possible. You will find this on the Quranology website. I have segmented maybe 5 or 6 different chapters. And if you can follow these segmentations, and as you read the segments, for example, the first segment in Baqarah is from verse 21 to verse 39. So it includes the call to mankind and the story of Adam. Now, as you read this, make notes. What do you understand by this? How does this section relate to the opening section of chapter 2, which is from verse 1 to verse 20, and that is essentially almost a typology of humankind in relation to the Alif Lam Mim. You see, so as you go along, keep making notes. The second section is the third section is a call to Bani Israel, and it's only 7 verses long, from verse 40 to verse 46. Why is it so short? Maybe because it's a summary or a prelude to the preceding section, which is the longest call to Bani Israel, from verses 47 to verse 103. You see, as so you are climbing the mountain now and you are planting your pegs. And as you plant your pegs, you are climbing higher and higher. And when you do that, what happens is you will gain a grasp of how the chapter comes together as one. So then, by the time you reach the second main section of Baqarah from verse 168, you will see how there are no more calls to Bani Israel, but there are successive calls to those who have believed. Why? Because those calls relate directly to the passage starting from verse 168. So you see, Quran is actually very systematically arranged. The problem is, the first thing, people say it's not. Traditionalists, as I said before, they see it atomistically. They will quote for you Ayatul Kursi. verse 255 of chapter 2, and they will never see the previous verse. I have never once, in 25 years of being involved in this, I have never seen anyone quote the previous verse to Ayatul Kursi, verse 255. So if you read from verse 254, and then you read 255 Ayatul Kursi, then you read 256 and 257, you will see why Allah arranged it in that way. But nobody ever does that. Nobody wants to plant those pegs because it's a lot of work. But I promise you this, if you plant enough pegs and if you climb that mountain using a very systematic reading, to mix some metaphors there, then by the time you get to the end of chapter 2, you will see why the summary is about the soul. You see, the Quran gives us a very interesting approach to its text. It always talks about itself, self-reference. And when it does this, we need to take the cue. We need to experience it the way the author, Allah, tells us to experience it. And in doing so, we can get a higher experience. So I will leave you with that. I hope you can do that for Al-Baqarah, because Al-Baqarah is the simplest chapter you can do it with, because the segmentations are so clear. In the preceding chapters, the segmentations may intertwine a little bit, and I'll tell you why it intertwines in future episodes of this series. So many thanks for viewing this series, and I hope I can see you again tomorrow for day 17.